Thank you all very much. My name is Jim Tousignant. I'm the CEO and founder of FinTech Studios. It is my pleasure to be here today. First, I want to thank Brad and Ben and the entire Symphony team for inviting us today to demonstrate FinTech Studios' amazing AI machine learning technology. Also, I'm happy to share the stage today with my colleagues from Sycomore Asset Management, Marie and Olivier, who will be joining us a little bit later on in the presentation. So without further ado, FinTech Studios is a New York-based FinTech startup. We've been a partner of Symphony for now 6 years. We've enjoyed that partnership. We're one of the most popular apps on Symphony with almost 8,000 users that have downloaded and used our app on Symphony, and that trend is growing. I think the goal today is to talk about how this technology in combination with Symphony solves real problems for content and data and collaboration and community on Symphony. So what I'm going to demonstrate is the capabilities that we're deploying at Sycomore Asset Management. Marie and Olivier will tell you a little bit more about Sycomore Asset Management in a bit. They're a French-based asset management buy-side firm, manages around $8 billion under management, very thematically focused, particularly around ESG, sustainability, and some of the other key areas today. So what we're going to demonstrate is FinTech Studios and how we built that collaboration inside of Sycomore. So it starts with the idea that inside of Symphony, with FinTech Studios, you can create what are called channels. And channels are really defining, sort of like Google on steroids, exactly what you care about as a set of topics. So in this case, it's going to be on thematic things that, again, Maria and Olivier will talk about. And it's defined through very simple interfaces where users can, like with Google, search for anything and pull up anything that might drive market activities and market events. But in this example, given limited time, we're going to focus on channels and how they've been deployed at Sycomore. So in this case, they've set up a channel specifically focusing on ESG around a group of companies that they have in their portfolio. So you define these channels by giving them a name. You can make channels public or private, so you can share it with your colleagues. So the idea is you can actually share this intelligence even with your counterparties or clients. So in this case, they have a fund. It's tracking a bunch of public companies around the world. Because we tag and ingest information using AI, machine learning, and NLP, and we ingest from millions of sources globally in real time in 49 languages, we apply a taxonomy, effectively a way to structure and organize this data, and a knowledge graph to really look at how this data relates and connects to other data. So in this example, because we can do it intelligently with literally billions of AI workers, we can determine how relevant or not relevant a particular news story or blog or corporate filing or regulatory action or any major market event in any language based on that relevancy. So in this example channel, a set of companies that they're tracking that they want highly relevant results around. This could also be private companies. It could be any asset class. It could be any topic. This happens to be a fund. When you set up these channels, you can also apply their filters to them. So since they're very thematic, they wanted to apply, in our taxonomy, we have thousands of tags like ESG, or climate change, or renewable energy, or any of these sort of typical tags, or because we index all of the words and phrases, you can actually look for very specific things like green bonds, or some topic that might be of interest. So you're going to see they're very focused on social and governance. So this idea of freedom of expression as a topic, or business ethics as a topic. But you can also apply other filters, in this case a workflow, whereas a research analyst identifies some story or market event affecting a portfolio or potentially a new area of investment opportunity. They can then create a workflow to route that story, that information on Symphony or to other people in the organization, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But you can also filter out stuff. In this case, I've decided for this demo to filter out Twitter and social media and blogs. Of all of the millions of sources, some people may care about this, some people may not. So when I then look at the results of this channel, it's magical. In essence, I've just sifted through millions of documents we've ingested just today alone, and 1.5 billion documents, to find exactly the stories that are relevant. Stories from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, corporations, bloggers, industry publications. When we identify these stories, like the CO2 story, we tag all of the companies or the people or the topics that that story is associated with. So in this example, carbon emissions and ESG and environmental crimes were all examples of that. I can start to define workflows in the application where I can say this story, it's relevant it really needs to be reviewed by an analyst. And this story about Qualcomm, which is actually in the fund, might actually need to be reviewed by a portfolio manager. And this story, which is talking about a capital raise around carbon emissions, might be something that we actually want to share in a Symphony bot. And so this idea that I can now set up these channels, monitor them, set up workflows, filter down through them, billions of stories down to millions, down to the 3 that really matter to you and the things you're trying to drive in terms of a collaboration or a trade or an execution. So because of all of the metadata, we know which issuing agencies this information may have come from. We know the companies that this information in this channel was most relevant to. So if you just wanted to focus on just the stories, for example, around MasterCard, or any topic or person or sector or source, you can sift through these billions of things to find exactly the needle in the haystack, but also you can do it across languages. So if you noticed, I now have 90 stories that are relevant for what I'm interested in my portfolio, but this story is not in English. So by clicking on a translation button, you can translate from any language, in fact, 49 different languages, into any other language. Think of the magic of market intelligence and regulatory intelligence and trade intelligence when you can do it across language boundaries. And this ability is that I can share this content. So for example, let's say I was focused on MasterCard, and I really thought this story from ESG Today was highly relevant. So I can look at similar stories. I can look at what are called cluster patterns. I can also look at a dashboard view of all of this, but I can also share information inside of Symphony. I'm going to show you that in just a bit. But the other thing is, because we've empowered this inside of Symphony with all of this metadata, all of this tags, the data is the key, because now you can start to visualize that. You can start to analyze. So in this case, I'm looking at their entire portfolio, looking at media coverage. These are called widgets. So these can be embedded in applications and workflows. So you can see peaks and valleys in data. I can start to surface intelligence very easily by just pointing and shooting to something that's relevant to me, to finding the stories that are going to affect me so that I can share it with my portfolio managers, my analysts. I can see if something's affecting the stock price, and so forth. So these widgets are all very powerful and allow me to look at data over different time intervals, allow me to look at, for example, what were the top companies that were being co-mentioned in this stream of content around ESG topics, allow me to drill into any of these with any degree of importance. So if I wanted to find just the stories about MasterCard that related to my filter parameters, I can start to do that regardless of language. I can also start to share this information. So for example, if I wanted to share this information about the Emirates in terms of a MasterCard coalition, I can do that easily within Symphony. And so when I share the story inside of Symphony, it brings up a Symphony abilities to interoperate. So if I wanted to share this, for example, with a chat room set up by Marie and Olivier called Sustainable Technology, it's very easy for me to do that. And if you notice, when you're sharing a story or a dashboard element inside of Symphony, we also apply all the metadata tags, which allows you to discover it or apply it to other workflows very easily. So in this case, I'm sending this to that chat room. And if you notice at the top, because of the power of Symphony 2.0, and this is the Capital Markets Edition, you can have what are called multiple workspaces at the top. So in one workspace, Olivier and Marie and others inside of Sycomore, which are 30 people, the asset managers, the portfolio managers, the research analysts, the traders. So in essence, they're able to set up their own channels and dashboards. So in this example, we actually have multiple channels and dashboards that are relevant to Sycomore. We're going to talk through a few of them today, and then we're going to get some commentary very shortly. So instead of an ESG focus, this particular one, which we'll talk about, is a portfolio that Olivier had set up focusing on sustainable technology. And so if you notice in this workspace, we have a Sycomore branded version of FinTech Studios on the left, monitoring all of the things in that portfolio. If you notice, it's updating in real time, so anything that's changed is very easy to identify. All of the dashboard analytics we saw on the other workspace are available in here. So in this case, Olivier is able to monitor his sustainable tech platform, look at what's trending, look at what's hot, look at some of the key word clouds that are surfacing, look at some of the trending stories, but he can also start to use this to communicate to his colleagues. So if I go back to that example, if you noticed, that Emirates story that I had shared earlier is now sitting here over in the right. If you notice, every one of those tags, like payment cards or Middle East, I can start to follow inside of Symphony. This is really powerful. This now gives you a tagging scheme where everything can be consistently applied to one nomenclature. I could even find things about that. Not only am I following it now, including I'll get signals from Symphony anytime something is published, but now I can go back and look for all of the stories, all the articles, all the rules, all the press releases, all the M&A discussions that are relevant. And I can do that in a second, in the blink of an eye. And if you notice, all of these stories, which I'm now following payment cards in Symphony, are all relevant to payment cards. And so this ability to now start to surface things that are relevant and find it and analyze it becomes very powerful. Even as I look inside of Symphony, if I want to explore things that I'm already focused on. So again, it might be a company like Amazon. So because we tag all of the public companies and private companies, it's very easy now to start to see deal flow and information flow around companies. And it's also very easy to start to drive conversations, where if I click on a topic, a company, a person, a topic, a region, a sector, it will go and find all of the information that's relevant to that and explore that information in real time. So in essence, now I'm looking at Microsoft. And why is that important? Because again, if I'm focused on what do I want to invest in, how is it performing, how do I find value inside of Symphony? So again, well, I do understand, thank you. That was my watch talking to me. So why is that important? Because we really understand relationships. Because we've turned this massive megasphere of the internet from millions of sources and now made sense of it, now you can start to see how things relate to other things. And I think when Gary was talking about the abilities to identify who you're connected with and also what you're connected about, think about this abilities where I can now surface in on investments I'm interested in, see how it relates to other things I'm interested in. In this case, all the stories globally around Qualcomm on a certain day, and all of the other companies and people and topics that are most being connected, in this case, like a pharmaceutical company like Moderna. So I'm going to turn it over to the folks at Sycomore Asset Management in just a second, but I just want to sort of further elaborate before we finish that the way they've set this up is they've set up a whole set of channels of which they'll talk about some of that experience and how they're using it inside of Sycomore. And some of those topics I'll just highlight very briefly before we turn it over to Marie and Olivier. So one is they have a focus around French companies, a fund they've created called French Cap. They have another one around European equities, another one around the education movement and inclusive jobs. So all of these are easily accessible inside of the application inside of Symphony. So in this case, I'm now tracking a different fund and all of the updates associated with it and all of the analytics. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, Marie and Olivier, and they can give you a little bit more details about how they're deploying Symphony inside of Sycomore, and importantly, how we're partnering with FinTech Studios. So Marie, I'll turn it over to you.
Actually, I will be speaking.
Oh, thank you, Olivier.
Yeah, hello, Jim. Yeah, indeed, we're building different workspaces to better connect the department of the team, of the company, and facilitate the communication between them. Because this is an issue in an asset management company, the way we communicate between the team. So as an example, we built a market workspace where the portfolio managers can communicate with the trader. And in this workspace, you have different chat rooms where every participant can share a company-specific news, market news, or whatever. And also, more importantly, each portfolio manager has its own execution chat room where it can communicate with the trading team here at Sycomore. On top of that, we have developed several bots to answer the needs of the portfolio managers. So to give you some examples, there is an execution bot which automatically sends a message to the PM when the trade is passed with all the information that are required, like the price, the broker, etc. The portfolio manager can also use some different commands to access specific information, like check whether the trade is passed, check the position in its portfolios, check whether other funds here at Sycomore own specific companies. But one of the features that we are the most proud of is the ability for a PM to roll a future at the end of the month by simply sending a message to the bot from within the chat room. You just have to send a message, and since the bot is connected with the order management system that we have at Sycomore, the order is automatically sent to the trading desk. So that was for the market workspace, and we have developed another one, which is the risk management workspace, that is automatically fed by bots. And the bot is connected to the valuation model, to the portfolio management system and the order management system. And the bot automatically sends the message to the portfolio manager when some situation occurs, like when the target price on stock in the portfolio is reached, or when a specific company that he was interested in has fallen below a certain entry level that he thought it might be interesting to reinvestigate the case at this point. And again, if some ratios at the portfolio level are reached, like the percentage of tech companies in the fund, like a certain amount of cash is reached in the portfolio, again, a signal and a message is sent to the portfolio manager to alert him. And now, Mary, do you want to go over how we are leveraging FinTech Studios and Symphony together?
Yeah, thank you, Olivier. Thank you so much for having me. So I am an ESG analyst at Sycomore, so my work is to analyze the impact on the environment and society of companies we invest in, with a focus on the tech sector. So this is why we developed the fund workspace that Jim just showed you on screen. And so here, the aim is to have a centralization tool that includes ESG. Indeed, each portfolio manager has ESG thematics that are including and linked to the fund. For example, for education, it can be educational tech or training. For the tech fund I'm working on, it will be privacy, cybersecurity, responsible marketing, or AI ethics. So here, what we wanted was to have a market intelligence tool for each portfolio manager with ESG-specific thematics. Here we have news in all languages, and we are able to track and identify specific news, our controversies or litigations. We can also have the sentiment of some online news, and then I am able to share them with my colleagues in the fund chat room. I also have an easily accessible dashboard for each fund I'm working on. For instance, if I work on 2 different funds, I can just access them with the sidebar on the left. Moreover, I can also access financials, key ratios, quotes, or analyst and earnings reports thanks to Apollo and FinTech data. Moreover, what we are also proud of is some Twitter feeds on each ESG thematics. So here, thanks to Apollo data, we are able to see how thematics are trading against each other. And we are looking at mobile average, and we are able to identify trending thematics. For instance, it can be a decrease in interest on business ethics and an increase in interest in AI ethics. And we can also see which stocks are exposed to this thematic, so this can also give us new investment ideas. Then I would just like to conclude on the further developments and bots we are willing to integrate in the future. So first, we are working on pushing news in our internal tool so that we can use FinTech and Apollo data into our valuation models, for instance, for controversies. We are also willing to follow all the main hashtags and cash tags that are used at Sycomore so that we can know which company and topics are trading internally. And finally, we are also willing to include new tools as StreetLinks, Zoom, and we are also very excited about Cline9 for voice alerts on big news and voice tradings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Marie and Olivier. And thank you all so much, and really appreciate your time. Thank you.